Jack's RPG Podcast. I'm in Max. Pursuing the RPG hobby with reckless abandon.
Hello. This is the Happy Jack's RPG Weekly Advice Show. And I am not Stu, I'm Kimmy. Stuart, I know. Everything's all confused today.
Off, right?
Yes.
It's been me all along.
No. Yes, Stuart is not feeling well tonight. So I'm here with my friends. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Jason.
Hi, I'm Stork. I think I'm Kimmy's friend. She
You
looks
are.
up at me.
You totally
I
are.
think she just hollered at me.
I do that with a lot of my friends. It's okay. And this is episode 2602, so season 26, episode 2 of the Happy Jack's Advice Show. And into today's episode. See, I know how to do this.
Wait,
It's
how
fine.
do they reach us?
Huh?
How can they reach us?
Oh, yeah. Well, no, that's what
They
I
gotta
did.
find us.
That's what I did. I'm about to
There
do
it
the
is.
blurb. It's all written there. I got it. If you'd like to email the show, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That is happyjacksrpg, all one word, at gmail.com. We have a forum. If you go to happyjacksforum.com or happyjacks.org/forum. We are also on social media. We're happyjacksrpg, all one word, everywhere, at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, lots of places. You can find us on YouTube there, and Twitch there. And yeah, if you want to watch us on YouTube or Twitch, you can watch us live. We're usually 7 p.m.-ish Pacific time on Fridays for the advice show. And then we have a bunch of APs that are constantly running. If you check out happyjacks.org/schedule, you can see that.
Do we do actual plays?
We do a lot of them.
Huh.
We do like 3 or 4 a week.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's
That's a
lot.
bunch. No,
But
more
it's
like
good.
5, right?
It depends on the week.
Crazy.
Yeah, we're crazy. But they're all good, and you should watch them. They're fantastic. Or listen. They're all available as podcasts and as videos.
They're all archived somewhere.
happyjacks.org/shows. Every single one has a little picture, because I had to
to go
find
find them.
pictures for all of them.
Have you counted how many we have in toto?
I did, but then I don't remember now. It's like a bunch. And they're all listed.
Gazillion.
Yeah.
Is it
And,
like over 300?
episodes? 100%, yeah, but actual separate campaigns?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember how many, but it was a lot. They're all
probably
listed chronologically, so you can
30.
see. Yeah, I think, something like that. It's
There
a
you
lot.
go.
So, whole bunch of stuff, whole bunch of different systems. You know this already. Thanks. All right, and in today's episode, we are starting off with orcs and some tropes about them. It's written in by
Mr. CJ.
Mr. CJ. Thank you very much. And Jeff from New York City writes in about simulating an epic journey into the unknown. And then Joe Crack, our friend, who has recently returned to the Discord, welcome, sir, asks about playing an existing IP. Yeah, so we have announcements. We do not have announcements.
Nope.
Okay. Actually, I have an announcement.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do.
You'll hear about this a lot coming up, so prepare yourselves.
Yep.
So there's this little game called Decima that's being released by Golden Lasso Games, and it's kickstarting, starting on 02/02/2020.
Oh, that's so cool.
Isn't it cool?
Did you work that out on purpose?
Yes,
Or it just was
at
like,
2
oh, it's so
p.m.
close.
Yeah. So February 2nd at
That's
2 p.m.
awesome.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Well done.
Decima will be kickstarting. If you go to Golden Lasso Games /Kickstarter, there's a waiting page with a little countdown. And so save that. Eventually it will redirect to the actual Kickstarter page.
I actually did click on that, and I really liked your blurb about it as well. I thought it was very well thought out and very well written. There's a nice little thing about why you chose Kickstarter, which is
Right.
you should click on it and read it. It's a very well thought out reason. And,
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Everyone should
yeah.
check it out.
And there is like controversy. I know people like the employees at Kickstarter are trying to unionize, things like that. So it's basically an explanation of why I'm still going with Kickstarter with me and my team, and what's going to happen and next steps if people do decide to do boycotts and things like that. A whole explanation of the situation. So if you're interested in that, do that. Or if you just want to see the little nifty timer that says now it's like 15 days and 20 hours until my
Yeah, but who's
Kickstarter.
counting?
Yeah, who's counting? It's fine. Let's go into the first email, please. All right, anyway. So yeah, goldenlassogames.com, find the stuff.
Yeah, it'd
Thank
be
you.
great. Jason did it, and he's still around to tell about it.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Right?
That was all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I make even half of how much money you made, I'd be
No, that was...
flipping it
You're
crazy.
going to crush me.
I don't think. All right. Anyway,
Not a competition. We're just trying to get games made here, guys.
everything's a competition.
Yeah.
I mean, have you met me?
I'm an Aries an Aries Gryffindor. Everything.
Yeah. Me too.
All right, yeah.
Which means we're in competition
With each
constantly.
always. We're birthday twins. Like
Yeah.
exactly the competition.
Yeah.
I'm a Virgo Ravenclaw, so I don't really care.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I was like, can we just get to the email? All right. Orcs and trope assumptions from Mr. CJ or MRCJ.
Yeah. We're just assuming it's Mr.
I
CJ,
don't
but
know.
maybe not.
MRCJ.
Could be Merc J.
Merc Yeah, could be. That could be a lot of things. That's like one of those license plates you
Yeah.
look at and you're trying to figure out what it
You
says.
practically hit the car because you're busy trying to read it.
Yeah.
What does that
Mercenary
mean?
J's and Mark J's.
Yeah.
and
What kind of
Mr.
person gets a vanity license plate?
I don't know. Probably someone who's an Aries Gryffindor.
Not all of them.
Does it say Decima?
No, I'm not going to say my license plate on the thing, but it's super cheesy and it's expected. Okay.
Probably need to get one that says Decima. They
Yeah.
just have advertising all the time.
Everywhere. Oh, man.
People will Google it.
Oh, I am the first search if you Google Decima.
Yep.
I am the first thing on the internet
Nice.
right now. All right. Hello, Chopper Stew. I'm sorry he's not here. And in Douchebag Town.
Who runs Douchebag Town?
Stew.
I'm nothing but a raggedy man.
All right. As I listen to actual plays, one of the constants among fantasy settings GM'd by Stu is the treatment of orcs. I'm aware of Stu's article regarding orcs and his thoughts behind it. I might even have read it. It's always helpful when someone writes an article and then you read it.
If you're going to comment on
If you're
it.
going to comment on it. I mean, that's why you write articles, hypothetically. I think it imbues the setting with depth and a kind of logic that players can expect across multiple campaigns. I also think that many GMs have similar themes or tropes that they carry across different games. One example of this, again from Stu's actual plays, is the idea that spaceships have codes that can be referenced, changed, and used for identification. They appear in Star Wars and then again in Traveller. I think these kinds of things are personal choices that grow from preferred ways to approach world building. If there is a question in here, maybe it's this. Have you heard of other GMs who insert world building elements from a campaign setting? Who insert world building elements, I can talk, I'm fine, from campaign setting to campaign setting. Okay, that is the letter. MRCJ, Mr. CJ, we don't know.
And then there's a PS that's longer than the letter, so maybe we should do the letter first.
Yeah, let's do the letter first.
Yeah. I think that is a fair assessment. I know that there's people who...
Hold on just a second. I'm going to have you mute, and I'm going to have you grab the mic next to you.
Oh, yeah, we were having problems with that mic
Yeah,
the
sorry.
other day.
Yeah, I feel like I do this with campaigns when I'm jamming from thing to thing. There are definitely themes or things I create that I kind of steal and share, especially if it's sort of a similar thing.
Well, we all fall into habits, and we all fall into things, and I completely get what he's saying. I'm going to just sort of keep talking for a bit. I want to get my level.
You're good.
They completely get what he's saying because you have a personal way of sort of building your own world and things that make sense to you, and whether you're running around in a fantasy setting or you're playing high science fiction, much of your worldview is still imbued in both of those two radical settings. I get that, and I can completely see myself doing it in everything I approach. I found myself falling on the same tired plot lines a lot of the time too. And I've had to say, and because they work in both, like maybe the magicians are opening up a portal to another world, or maybe in the science fiction setting it's an actual artifact that opens,
or opening a gateway.
It's a gateway.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same trope,
Yeah.
but it goes from. But you can transfer the two, and I can see that.
I think I want to focus just on this one question because I know we kind of pre-read the second part of the email. But so this first part of the email, he's just talking about like how Stu uses like basically VIN numbers for starships, and he does that in multiple science campaigns or science fiction campaigns. Are there things like that we see or we've noticed other people use that is like carried from campaign to campaign?
I don't know if this counts, but I have injected an advantage mechanic since D&D 5e came out. I take that to whatever game I'm like, look at the dice mechanic and go like, okay, how can I give advantage and disadvantage? All right, here we go. And maybe it won't work right perfectly. I guess that's kind of a meta answer to this. I don't know what world building elements I bring. I probably do, and I'm just not conscious of it.
You generally bring a sexy, badass female orc of some type.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, I think it's badass warrior women.
Yeah,
or
that's
is
a
what
theme.
shows up in my games a lot.
A lot. Yeah. I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's true.
Adam has his abs.
Yep.
We used to have a magic dealership in D&D back in the day that was called Square Deal Sam's. And Square Deal Sam's showed up in everybody's campaigns because
Nice.
it was just sort of like a used magic shop where you could go in and buy stuff and sell stuff. Because,
Yeah.
you're constantly going through dungeons and getting unknown wands. And so it was like a one-stop shop.
That's
And
cool.
it ended up on our science fiction stuff, too. It's like Square Deal
Nice.
Sam's, but it was
Yeah.
blasters and lightsabers
Yeah.
instead.
Yeah.
And so it transferred around on all the things. But I think, and that's kind of a silly answer, but I can totally see myself setting up my science fiction world exactly the same way as my fantasy world, even with the feudal lords,
Yeah.
even with, and just substitute swords and magic to the Force and lightsabers. I mean, it's I still build them up the same way, and I still have the same through lines, I guess.
Yeah. I tend
The
to
same arc.
also put like a lot of like teachers in my games.
Oh.
So that's happened.
Yeah.
I don't know, in the Wild West game, one of the main NPCs ended up being the schoolhouse like teacher, and then right now I'm running a campaign that's all about schools with superheroes and things like
Yep.
that. And I don't mean to. I think it's just something I'm super familiar with. So I automatically, when they're like, "Oh, this person walks in," I'm like, "They're a teacher." I think that comes from like the improv GMing a little bit. Like you
Yeah.
default to a thing you're super familiar with.
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to do. Like, I've described my childhood home. Like, when people walk into places, I'm like, "Oh, what does it look like?" And
Yeah.
suddenly I'm describing because I know it really well.
Yeah.
So I've used my childhood home in numerous times, like for apartment rooms, for,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think one of my biggest world building elements that I can identify, having grown up in Shadowrun, is I will put a heist in any game that I'm running. Like, the story will be about a botched heist, or you're going on a heist, or you've been heisted. And, I think that feeds a lot of my storytelling as
Yeah.
something related to a heist.
Yeah, I think jamming is something that's very intensely personal. So I think no matter how different the setting is, or in a different
No, I'm pretty sure everyone GMs exactly the same way.
all the time, every time, yeah.
I've done some research.
But no matter what system you're in, no matter what setting you're in, there's going to be flavors of your personality that get put in there. And whether that's small details like Stu, like, oh no, you've got your number on your ship that like everyone's going to ID you, or whatever that is.
I think I'd go a step further and say your Square Deal Sam's, the number on the ships. I think it's great to reuse that
Yeah.
stuff. It's especially if it's with a group who you just played a Star Wars campaign, and now you're going to play Seventh Sea, whatever, and you have your Square Deal Sam. That's like a fun callback for everyone in the group.
Absolutely.
I don't think
everybody
it's
in the
like
group is using it. So, like,
Yeah.
when somebody else ran a thing, Square Deal Sam's was also in their game.
yeah, and maybe Sam was a little different,
Yeah.
but everyone had a sense of what Sam is like.
It was
Yeah.
a chain.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay.
That's awesome.
There was like one in every town.
Great. Great.
Well, they say that we have that for the Happy Jacks APs too.
Oh yeah, I mean we're trying to build that sort of meta
Shared
layer
universe.
universe
Yeah.
that all these games exist together.
Yeah, and like the Fae from Stu's vampire game showed up in the Changeling game, I think it was, and like all these different things. So it's, I don't know, it's kind of fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I've
super
even
dorky.
built some of it into my backstory with our Vikings that we did in Stu's game.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
His daughter was going to grow up to be the Icelandic woman from his game.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Alice.
Yeah. My Exodus character was like the great granddaughter of my character from the G-Next game. Which is why I was like, I've been practicing my Irish accent. They'll just be really distantly related. It'll
Well,
be
it's
great.
Ireland. It's a small island. They're all know each other.
Except we were in space. It got a lot bigger.
Still Irish.
Still, yeah. But
It's funny.
yeah, it is fun. I don't know. It's like tapping into the familiar. All right, and then the PS. Arg, a PS. I don't know if that's supposed to be and, but I like arg.
I think it's ARG.
Arg, a PS.
They tried to resist it, and it
Yeah,
just came
out.
unbidden.
Yes. Going back to the orcs.
You wouldn't just write ARG. You'd simply just say ARG and then yes.
Going back to the orcs. The thing I enjoy is that Stu has given orcs a reason for acting the way they do. If they attack a village or kill a bunch of people, it goes back to their worldview, which from one angle looks evil and from another angle looks uncompromisingly principled. It makes for a more complex relationship with orcs and a guide for playing them as characters. I also have a take on orcs, which I move from campaign setting to campaign setting, which is quite a bit darker than Stu's, but also addresses why they do the things they do. When I was thinking of why orcs do, quote, evil things, the answer came back that as a racial group, anything that has to do with what we associate with femininity, I can't talk today, is not presented in them. For maybe about 30 years now, in every campaign I run, it is understood that orcs are created, not born, in vats and requires a magic item and a costly, disgusting ritual. Orcs that are created generally follow whoever created them, not out of loyalty, but out of fear. And orcs, orcs are all created male, fully functional males. Orcs tend not to be particularly intelligent. Orcs have been known in large enough numbers to overthrow who or what created them. Orc society, when left on their own, quickly reverts to a Lord of the Flies style violence and power struggles. Orcs do not like bright sunshine. Sometimes they face a mechanical disadvantage if that's too bright. Orcs can crossbreed with other races, leading to half-orcs, which are violently rejected by any non-orc race and are valued by orcs for their ability to operate in daylight. Half-orcs generally don't have the same lower IQ assumption as orcs and may raise to leadership of regular orcs, but with some danger of anything, with the same danger of anyone living in the Lord of the Flies scenario. So, the idea is that anyone twisted enough to create orcs is generally willing to do twisted things to create servants for themselves, who tend to be good primarily for violent acts. When orcs are on their own, they act and react in ways to assure their own survival in semi-equal amounts of extreme violence and cowardice. All the best, Mr. CJ. Mr. Schroeder, MRCJ.
Yes. I mean, I don't think there's a specific question there, but I think, if you have a consistent setting idea that works, I mean, a lot of this is pretty consistent with the original D&D presentation.
Yeah.
Orcs.
I think it's important to have an idea what motivates your various groups of people, whether it's dwarves or elves or whatever. And oftentimes we default to many of the same things because we've spent a lot of time already setting it up.
Yeah.
And occasionally, I'll even read novels where we just assume that elf is like a Tolkien elf, whether it's from Tolkien or whether it's somebody else. Mm-hmm. They're all very similar. Every now and again you run into one that kind of turns it on its ear, where there was that show on not too long ago where the elves and fairies were just sort of seen as savages and such, which was a really different idea to me because you always think of elves as this noble race. And it's not often that people flip these around. So whatever you do, it's, I guess, good to have worked it out and spent the time, because it does then motivate or give impetus to that group's actions.
Yeah. If you want a great fantasy setting, subverting the usual tropes, the Dragon Prince is a fantastic source material for getting different ideas of how to do things.
Yeah. Super great cartoon on Netflix.
Yeah. But also, what was weird for me, I played Shadowrun in 1989, the first edition, having never played D&D and never read Tolkien.
Right.
Wow.
And so I had no fantasy background because I wasn't that interested in dragons and wizards.
Because the elves in Shadowrun are like Tolkien elves, just in the future.
Well, not really. There's a little group of them. Most you can be an elf who's a mechanic and a hacker, and you're not any different from anyone else.
That's true.
It's very much the circumstances of your birth decide a lot more about you than whether you're
pointy ears or not.
Yeah, exactly. And so the idea there. Oh, and they also have, because their elves and orcs and whatever are injected into the real world. Shadowrun is an alternate history, really. They also have elves who are black and orcs who are Asian, and just that. It separates the idea of species and race.
Yes.
And that is, I think, a really valuable way to think about
Super
that, too. Because you're way more influenced by the family that raised you and the neighborhood you grew up in than the pointiness of one's ears.
Right. Yeah, that's my favorite take on it, too. As big a Tolkien fan as I am, there's definitely, I mean, it's a really old fucking set of books.
Yep.
And there's, they come with the problems of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it does carry the baggage of the eras that it was written in and the eras before it.
Exactly. And I've heard, reading a bunch of rumors about the upcoming Amazon? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Amazon
Amazon's
picked that up.
doing a Middle-earth show, kind of vague on what it is exactly, but and there's they're making a very important point, supposedly, according to the materials, of including a lot more people of color. Like elves are lots of different people of color, things like that.
Holy moly.
Which is exactly what it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like these are timeless beings. Like they've got more important things to worry about. I mean, they made a lot of mistakes in the history of Middle Earth, but I won't go into that. Sorry. But yeah, I think that's really important. That it's interesting hearing people comment on Stu's take on orcs too, because that all kind of all the stuff not all the stuff, but a lot of what became his things for orcs for his moment of truth setting were actually developed by us when we did our 5e game when we all played orcs. And he was really great about letting us come up with cultural stuff for that and different things. And one of my favorite things, which is still technically in the setting, I don't think it came up in the Moment of Truth campaign, was that I got to make this army of badass female women warriors that were orcs, and it was very much tied to their motherhood and their honor and things like that. It was basically they were mothers, and if their children were killed or something, it was their job to they all joined. They called them the Legion of the Dishonored because children were so important to the orc society. So they joined to redeem themselves to society. I wasn't able to protect my baby, so now I will protect society. So
that is cool.
I think
it's a great story.
It's very cool. So
it's a whole series of novels that should be written about that.
Right?
Yeah.
I loved that.
That's the YA shit I want to read.
Yeah. Well, and I loved the keeping the strength and kind of the warrior idea of orcs, but also pairing that very strongly with something that's very feminine and motherhood and giving birth and an all woman society within orc culture.
Stu's take on orcs is very much, before 300 came out, of Sparta.
Sure.
It's very much a warrior caste society.
Yeah, I mean, it really deviates from the, born in a vat,
right.
but, imbued by an evil
right.
wizard,
Right.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
off. No, you're that's fine. It's the two contrast each other, but at least both have a clear vision so that their orcs are motivated however it is you get there.
Yeah, and I think that ties back, I think, and this is a good example of what Jason was saying about your circumstances of your birth really impacting. So it might be fantastic to see how an orc who is from the world that Mr. CJ makes, what if one of them was made out of love?
Oh, yeah.
How would that change that behavior? Because, it's very much the circumstances of how they're created, generally, he says, by people with, nefarious intent.
Oh, right. If a druid in the woods got a hold of this ritual and went okay, well, we can make living beings, and living beings should have a heart and compassion, and, sentient beings, should have those things, and... that's a really interesting campaign idea that I'm not writing down on the back of this.
Right.
As an actor, having done some acting training and such, this is exactly what people talk about when they start creating a backstory for their character, because it informs the motivations and informs the choices that the character then makes.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, an actor is in a scene and they kind of need to know what led up to and what behind it, and even if the character is very complicated, they need to come up with stuff in the background and they'll talk to the director and writer about it because they need those kernels, those nuggets.
Absolutely.
This stuff about the sunshine is important to them to give the most authentic performance.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of mumbo jumbo as an actor, but this is exactly what actors sometimes have to do, is come up with this stuff because it then informs the choices they make on screen or in the scene.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, well, and then that orc that I played in our 5e campaign, if I just made her a warrior in this army of women orc warriors, okay, that's interesting. But how she would react when she got to towns or saw children in trouble would be dramatically different than with that backstory. Even though we never saw her backstory with her child,
Right.
Boom, that changed immediately. She was willing to lay her life down for any child,
Yeah.
of any race, of any type. That was part of her motivation is.
And those are the motivations that actors talk about. They talk about choice and motivation. The choice is sort of an acting choice, a stylistic choice, but the motivation is literally something built into the story that you are then. This is what they're doing. What motivated them to do that? And you have to delve into your mind and find the truth of that motivation, and then try to portray that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it helps when you have all of this stuff here.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise you're just an automaton parroting lines,
Right.
which is not a great performance usually.
No, but usually that's they want somebody that can do it in 2 takes and hit their mark.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you can always tell too. There's like those scenes in the movie. You're like, I think they filmed this out of order and they didn't know
did
something.
they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
hard.
man.
It's really hard.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, MRCJ,
Yeah.
Mr. CJ.
Awesome.
Yeah. Great email. Great ARG PS.
Arg.
Shall I take on Jeff?
Yes.
Sure.
All right. Simulating an epic journey into the unknown from Jeff in NYC. Hey, Stu and the Friday Evening Douche crew.
That's us.
That's us.
Hey, we're the Douche Crew.
Except without a stew.
Yeah. Oh well.
But it rhymes. So it makes me happy.
Yeah, that's catchy.
Yeah.
Jeff from NYC here, writing in for the first time in a long while. I'm running a D&D 5e game in my own custom setting where a new and strange continent has been discovered, and my players are an expedition team tasked with mapping and exploring the new land and finding out what happened to the last expedition that went missing. That is salient. Imagine Lewis and Clark meets Heart of Darkness. There's
You're a grocery clerk. And collect the bill. It's my terrible, terrible Apocalypse Now. Okay, carry on.
good.
I'm glad you explained it.
There's
Well, it was so bad, I figured you kind of needed to know.
There are pockets of civilization along the coast and a few new settlements further inland, but the rest of the continent is terra incognita. I'm writing in because I wanted to ask for advice on how to A, fill this world out, and B, make exploring it fun and exciting. Okay, we can definitely fix all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the games I've run before have taken place in settings where the world is mapped out already, or I could easily hand-wave travel times and issues. For instance, how long it takes to get from Neverwinter to Waterdeep probably doesn't matter so much, but you can assume there's a road between the two with inns and taverns and maybe bandit attacks along the way.
Right.
Yeah, I do the same thing. My issue now is I want to get from point A to point B. I want getting from point A to point B to feel like a challenge in and of itself, but without it devolving into the players sitting around having to just make constant con saves to simulate how tired they get and survival checks to find trails or whatnot.
Right.
Yes, agreed. Okay, I'm fully on board for this. The other fun part is also making all the environments different and exciting. There will definitely be all kinds of terrain covered, and they'll be coming across other creatures and possibly societies of varying degrees of sentience and hostility. I'm a little limited by my own imagination in this, though, and want the world to feel different from the typical Lord of the Rings kind of environments you might typically see. Any advice is appreciated. It's important to me that you take a drink before continuing on, however.
Thank you. Good
Cheers.
man. Good man.
Thanks all, Jeff. P.S. Hey, Kimmy, I've started getting into cosplay, and you're at least partly to blame.
Yay!
Oh, boy.
I'll take the blame for that.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's very fun. All right.
So, in review, we're
Filling out a world.
A, filling the world out, and B, making the exploration of it fun and exciting.
This would make a better video game than it does a role-playing game, I think, because having played many like an online open world game, you don't know what's over the next hill yet because you haven't explored it yet. Remember when WoW first came out and you were like,
Yeah.
oh, what's over here? Oh, what's over there? And you would spend just weeks,
Wandering.
entire weekends
Just running around.
wandering
Yeah.
and finding stuff. And that's really satisfying in WoW. And you're on the edge of your seat because you don't know what's in that forest, or if someone's going to drop on you from out of a tree, or if that village up there is friendly or not, or if it's abandoned, and if it is abandoned, is there stuff in there? That's really cool. And to try to recreate that in an RPG is tricky, I think. I have a couple of things I was thinking about, just sort of right off the bat, but none of this is carved in stone. Mostly to maybe ratchet up the tension and to make your players cognizant of the fact that this is an exploration game, is to make resource management much more important than you normally would. If you're in the desert, you can only carry a certain amount of water. How far is it to the next town? Well, the local villagers don't really know. They haven't talked to that town in a long time. It could be 3 days. It could be 2 days. You have to figure out how many arrows do you have? Mark them down.
Right.
You have to try to streamline that because every time they shoot an arrow, everybody's going to be marking it and they're going to have to make more. But that will at least ratchet up some of the tension and make them think twice. Rather than just steamrolling into the forest, they might choose to sneak by because they only are down to 4 arrows and have like 1 day's of supplies left. That might help you with the exploration part. The other thing I was thinking was make a map of your world, but only give it to them in pieces as they explore it. And maybe even give them parts of a map. If they visit a village and ask, what's nearby, you can hand them a map with like the ruins and part of that stuff filled out, and they can add it to their master map. And that at least gives them some idea of, like they're helping to build and explore this world as they go.
One thing you can add to your map, well, first of all, your map does not have to be fancy, because mine are all garbage, but they convey the idea. It's theater of the mind anyway, so it's great. And I like that idea of the video game thing is important because it's you by yourself and you're going over the next rise and you are visually seeing the thing.
And you're tense because you could die. You don't know.
You got to remember that not everyone at the table is picturing the same thing when you're describing it. So try to be as effusive as possible. But the thing you can do to expand those maps where you're like piecing them out is you might get to a high rise and you can kind of see down into the valley there's this town, but now hundreds of miles that way you can see a peak. There's a mountain in the clouds,
or shiny city,
or there's
smoke.
there's a long desert that way, and you can fill in a big section of like unknown mountain you can see, and that'll start to give it a sense of depth and scope.
Exactly, that's a really great idea. The other thing you can do too is not completely define your entire world. Let the players maybe define some of it. They can come off and say, maybe they take a route through the forest. Well, you haven't completely defined this forest yet, so you let the players, maybe you throw an abandoned elven village in there. You hadn't thought of it. Well, now it's on their map. They're helping fill out your map as well, and so you can sort of crowdsource some of that stuff out so that they are actively exploring and helping you fill out your map. But
I would 100% have them actually fill it out.
Yeah.
Like, hand them the thing, and, you get to draw this as you go, like adventurers.
Yeah.
And again, don't, judge them on their drawing, but it's like, okay, this was the well. The circle is the well. Just write well on it.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing, because that'll give them some ownership on, we're really exploring and filling this out.
Yeah. I would also say I almost never track ammunition and rations and the weight of your gear, but I absolutely agree that you probably should for this. However, that being the case, I would give everyone in the party free what's it called, rank training in D&D. What's your proficient
survival?
Free proficiency in survival and animal handling. Because one, your ranger or whoever is going to feel like obviously they should have that. And if this is an experienced group of adventurers that whoever's in charge hired them to go find the people who went missing, these folks are on their shit and they know what they're doing.
And it's shitty for one person to get stuck always doing all the menial tasks.
Maybe they don't all have stealth. Maybe they don't all have athletics.
It could all be a party of rangers, which would be awesome.
Yeah, but even if it's not, to not feel like you have to do that, I would just give everybody survival and animal handling for free, and then carry on with character creation as normal. Because this is a group of people who know how to survive in the woods. You're not bringing some city kid in his fancy doublet and hose and has no idea how to conduct himself on a long journey with no immediate resources.
Or you do. There's the one cabin boy who's completely out of the water, and that's his character arc. But yes, if everybody is that way and the one ranger has to herd the rest of them around, you're not going to make it very far.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, if somebody does want to be that
fish out of water,
the fancy boy who's totally unprepared for this, that's fine. Just be totally upfront about telling them that that's what's happening.
So they make that choice.
And that is something I would do. I'm the fanciest boy, and I want to do that.
What do you mean there are no bats in the forest? I don't understand.
I've literally said that in a campaign.
Yes, I'm sure.
And I had a lot of fun being inept at that and good at the things that I'm good at.
But because you knew ahead of time and were able to be like, I am going to make the worst possible character for this, and it will be great.
I only travel light. I only have three bags, and it turns out they're like 3 giant steamer trunks. But there's 3 of them.
Wait, what do you mean you don't carry my bags? WMAC in the chat room says, for outdoor travel adventures, I usually have 4 to 6 plot points that I want to cover over the next several sessions. I then adjust them for the environment, area, main quest lines, and plan it out that way.
Yeah.
Which is similar to kind of what we've talked about with module design a lot, and that's something that a lot of us utilize when we're doing con games or one-shots, when we have like a set time limit, and it's like, these are the plot points. Okay, you run into them. Oh, we're going to switch them around in this order now.
Yeah.
So just have like different encounters planned, and then just kind of whatever seems to work as they go through.
Oh, the other thing, like to that point, if one of your plot points is the town is abandoned and the well smells funny, right? That could be the desert. That could be the forest.
Yeah.
That could be on a mountainside.
So you
right?
can
It
put
doesn't
that module
matter.
anywhere.
Yeah, it's not super important that you drag them through piece by piece. Like a video game has to pre-plan all that stuff.
Yes,
it's
it does.
really hard to just,
But you have these moments that you've already cobbled together in folders, and you can pull them out at anywhere.
Yeah, it's okay to be prepped for stuff like
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Like but have like the chat said, 4, 5, 6 of those, and then you can drop them when it seems like it's sort of emotionally important. Like, oh, it feels like a deserted town kind of day, or it feels like a broken down caravan where everyone's fine, but the caravan can't move for some reason. If it's in the woods, it's in the mud. If it's in the desert, they're in the quicksand. Like a little bit of quicksand. There's just, you have a lot of flexibility if you build out your encounters that way.
Yeah.
And to that point, I would definitely give them some things to do instead of them just stumbling along exploring. And I would also give them sections of the map for free as well. Like they find a library and the old part of the map. So that now all of a sudden there's a whole area of the section and maybe there's ruins or a city. We're going to go that way.
Yeah.
And then you can sort of lead them there. But it gives them, rather than just stumbling blindly with a machete through those forest, it gives them things to go and try out and explore and look at. And that'll give them those moments of discovery, like, wow, well, this was in that ancient text we found, and when they get there, the city's completely overgrown and abandoned. Wow, what happened? How cool is that?
Yeah.
And they get to map it while they're there.
Yeah.
Gives them a reason to cross the huge desert that
To
you
go
would
there.
in no
Right.
way see
Right.
that as like an attractive
Exactly.
option.
Right.
Or you could even do it with rumors, like this blind man in the tavern says he just came back from, or he's in this town. 50 years ago he went out and this happened over this way into the northwest, or whatever. And it gives the players a reason to go explore and check stuff out rather than just, all right, we get on our horses and they say the next town's 3 days away, so we're going to go.
Yeah.
Hopefully we make it.
Yeah, or give them like the yellow brick road in Wizard of Oz. Like that's all Dorothy knew. She's like,
Yeah.
follow this road. No idea where it goes through. Oh,
Yep.
Yeah.
crazy poppy field. Okay, some farmland. Like all these strange things. So like they know this is the way, but they don't know what they're going to run into along the way.
The other note I just wanted to say, and I maybe said it when I started, which is that you make sure you streamline some of the stuff. Make sure that their map making doesn't become a chore.
Yeah.
Make sure that their resource management is quick and easy to mark off, whether you make a sheet that they can just tick off arrows and food or whatever, or mark it. But try to make it as easy for them as possible, because it will help ratchet up the tension, but it could also become a chore. At some point, they're going to get pissed off if they have to keep doing stuff on the map if you don't make it easy for them.
Yeah.
Either grid it out and draw it for them, or every session you update the map and hand them the new map with whatever program you use, or you give them access to a program. But try to make this streamlined and fun and cool, rather than, all right, who wants to draw the map today? Oh, I don't. Not you. I hate the way you draw your wells. And
The thing I would add to that sort of quality of life improvement, I mean, it sounds like I'm making a joke, but if they have to double back to a place they came from, give them the quick travel. Maybe just go ahead and mark off 3 rations and, give it a quick travel. We already crossed this ground, unless it's super, super important and very plot relevant that they didn't find something on the way out and now it's going to, the bandits are going to jump them on the way back. Just give them the quick travel because it's not important. We already covered this ground. So
Also make them heroes. Like have them find, make this exciting, make this adventure thing exciting. Like, they're the first to discover this. They're the first to solve this puzzle. They're the first to make it to this town for whatever reason. They get through the past that was unpassable. Make them those people. Don't just turn them into cartographers and academics. Make sure that they are celebrated for what they're doing.
And some of the local towns they come across, they're doing these big, amazing things that locals haven't been able to do.
Right.
Maybe suddenly there's songs when they come back to that
Yeah.
town.
Exactly.
You know, and stories.
That's
and somebody's
so
painted
great.
a picture.
Because
and-
now all of a sudden you've elevated the chart making into this legendary thing. You know, you're reconnecting the entire kingdom. This group of people is reconnecting this fractured kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah, build their reputation.
Yeah.
On, you know, as part of making them epic
Great.
heroes. You know.
Yeah.
So we have solved it.
Yep.
Well, and there was one more part where they were asking about how to make their
Exploring it fun and exciting.
no, he did this,
Oh,
but like
yeah.
how to make it different than just your normal like Middle Earth like forests and stuff
yeah.
like that. My advice for that would be it's really hard to come up with new like landscape. Like landscapes have been used, like so many different types of weird landscapes have been used in all different fantasy. I like to try and be like, okay, it's a forest, but you know, try and then describe things that are in the forest. Like come up with weird creatures or weird plants. I love making plants that are dangerous because nobody ever expects the plant.
Forest
And
jellyfish.
Then, and then it's Audrey too, and it's oh no, what did I do? Sorry, that was a musical theater reference. Sorry, but
I'm very proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you. But like stuff like that. So it's something that just is a little bit different. Like if you can come up with some brand new cool ecosystem, good on you. Like that's a lot of work. But I don't know. That's what I tend to do. I tend to like copy paste like different bits of different things. Like it's a forest, but I'm going to pull like this animal that I saw here and these weird plants that I saw in Avatar and like all these different things.
Yep.
And then like kind of throw them together in one place. So as they're exploring something that like you don't have to explain every tree in the forest, like it's or a jungle or whatever you end up having, then as you're going through you can have like these weird interactions with interesting things.
Yep.
Also, and I say this all the time, but it bears fruit. Don't be afraid to describe smells.
In fact, you should.
And so especially when you're an explorer. One of the things I'm most proud of is when I did the Freak Show. They end up in the Fey realm, and there is sort of fields, and you could smell wood smoke like they just burned all of the fields recently. So and it's autumnal. There's leaves on the ground. There's crows cawing. It's sort of quiet and windy, and you smell smoke, and it immediately puts you in sort of an autumn town area kind of feel.
Yeah.
It's got that sort of desolate kind of spooky, and it's a simple little thing just to describe what you smell and what the sound is, the sound of wind whistling. So when they come to this sort of Mongolian plain, perhaps you can have them, you hear. It's very quiet. Occasionally you hear rustling of rabbits running and an odd crow or something, but for the most part it's really quiet, and all you hear is the wind and your own heart beating, and it smells of dust and grass.
And don't be afraid to so first of all, that's a mega agree. Like 2 to 3 senses, if you can, like try to dig into that and give them something like that. But also don't be afraid to compare or describe the sensory input with stuff that is like everyday for you. Like it smells like the inside of your freezer, right?
Yeah.
Like,
That's a great
that's
one.
like a dry, cold, weird smell.
Stale.
Or it's like, it's
I don't clean my freezer. It smells like rotten meat.
it's the size of your car, Jeff.
Yeah.
Like whoever's drove there, like, oh yeah, your minivan out there. It's the thing. The boulders about the size of Jeff's minivan, and like it sounds
right.
silly, but it actually now suddenly everyone is seeing the same size rock,
Yes.
right? Is a boulder 10 feet around, 100 feet around? Suddenly you're all seeing the same thing because you're comparing it to something in real life.
Especially as an explorer, too. You want to, that way when they're writing their little map, and they've got their Mongolian tundra kind of word, now they can draw their little grasses, because now you've set that part up. Anyway.
One of the best examples of that is right now in our Call of Cthulhu game. Stu's describing the Hounds of Tindalos, which are these terrifying things.
Yeah.
But the first, these are really hard things to describe because they're these horrors from other
Even
dimensions.
Lovecraft didn't do it very well.
Yeah.
It didn't.
He didn't know. So he's like, they have like this stuff on them that looks like yogurt, and like immediately,
Ugh.
yeah, right. First of all, we're all gross, but we know exactly what it looks like now.
Yep.
So whether it's accurate to the books or not, like that, we all have a very visceral, very clear picture of what these dogs are covered with, and none of us want to get near it.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
very effective.
It's very effective.
I love it.
All right. Thank you. Very good email from Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Playing an existing IP from Joe Crack. Hey, HJ crew. Joe Crack here, and I have a follow-up question inspired from one of the November 15th emails. Read. emails read. As the title might suggest, it's about playing in pre-existing IP.
What? I object.
Now, the hosts that are on discussed this and talked about several well-known properties like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Babylon 5, Farscape, and they seemed to come to an agreement where they enjoyed it if it were new stories, possibly not interacting with the well-known characters at all.
Yeah.
My question is, in regards to a setting that wasn't mentioned, superhero comics.
Yeah.
Obviously, Masks get played, and that game is great. But if someone asks me if I want to play in a DC universe, Marvel universe, Amalgam universe, or even a world where both properties coexist, and my answer is usually hell yeah. When the question arises, I want to make an OC or play a pre-existing character, and I can honestly do either. Marvel Heroic is a pretty good game for that type of thing. So I'm sure I can guess what some of the hosts might say, but what are y'all's feelings on that? If someone told you, hey, this is going to be like a Justice League game, do you want to play Wonder Woman, Black Canary, Superman, Batman, etc., what would your reaction be? Well, I know Kimmy would play Wonder Woman.
Feels called out.
Yeah, completely.
Would you play Wonder Woman?
I am Wonder Woman. I don't
Right?
need to play Wonder Woman.
Exactly.
I don't know. I actually, I was part of a charity event at a local game store where I was GMing, and I GM'd like a Justice League game, and I went in cosplay as Wonder Woman, and they were playing like young superheroes who were trying out to be and like trying to prove themselves to be on the Justice League, and it was kind of weird. It was like, even though I cosplay Wonder Woman, I don't like, there are some cosplayers who are in character all the time. I'm not one of those. I'm in character with little kids.
Yeah.
But if you walk up to me and you're like, hey, nice costume, I'm like, thanks, this is how I made it. I'm a nerd. So I don't know, it's kind of interesting. It's interesting because I've thought about this a lot, because playing demigods, you have the warrior playbook, which is very Wonder Woman-esque. And I've never played that playbook. And I don't know if it's because it's something that is like very like me, so maybe it's not enough role play. And I know it sounds like, oh, I'm like Wonder Woman. I'm not. I mean, but like, she's close to my heart for a reason, because I identify strongly with her. So I don't know if it's because I like being very different in games. So I don't know. I think if someone was like, I am specifically running a game that is the Justice League, who would you like to be? Yes, Wonder Woman, please.
Yeah.
Well, in many ways, again, I take this back to acting. Like, how many people have played Superman? Right? You started with, Christopher Reeve. Well, didn't start. Christopher Reeve and Brandon Ruth.
George.
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill, right? That guy. What did he only, yeah. Anyway, but each one has their own take on it, and it's very, very sort of different. There's been a couple of different people that play Batman, obviously, as well, and they're all very, very different from each other. And I think that if I were to play Superman, here's what I would have to say, which is, sure, I'll totally play your Justice League game, and I'll play Superman or any one of these established characters, but this can't be canon.
Yeah.
Because my Superman's going to make choices that will never. What I don't want to hear is, no, Superman would never do that.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be my fear
You can't do that to me if you're going to make me play one of these characters, because I don't want to be beholden to canon that I may or may not know, or may or may not even agree with. Like, I think that it's unfair, because not everybody's going to be the super comic nerd that Kimmy and I are, and know our Justice League lore backwards and forward. First of all, it's not fair that way. It's second, not fair that I have to get shouldered to play this character exactly the way it's currently being written, and I'm like, there's no fun in that at all.
Yeah.
So,
and sometimes it's really bad.
And for me, like, I'm kind of a comic book tourist,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Right.
except for a couple characters who I've read all of Deadpool and all of Spider-Man,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's the stuff I know everything about.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if it's not about those characters, I don't know. Like, if you tell me I had to play in a Justice League game and I get to be one of these people, I'd go like, Green Lantern, I guess? I don't know. The Flash? It seems cool.
oh, well, which Green Lantern do you want to play?
Yeah. And that's the thing. I would say, like, I don't know what my character's life was up till now.
Right.
What primer should I work from?
Right.
Yeah.
What assumption should I have? Oh, can I please have amnesia?
Yeah.
And that's the big pitfall right there, is that you're going to end up with people that aren't going to be playing Hal Jordan the way that he's ever been described. And you have to be okay with that going in. You have to say, you guys can play these characters. Hopefully, if they're playing superheroes, they have a passing knowledge of what those superheroes are. But they're going to, I mean, if I were to play Superman, I think I'd make him, like, want to take over the world like a god, which has been explored
It'd
before.
be Red
But
Sun Superman.
Oh, yeah.
I would. No, I totally would.
I read that. I like that a lot.
I totally would, because that's kind of what with great power comes great responsibility, and you'd be the philosopher king. Like, clearly, I need to lead these monkeys. They don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's not in the necessarily in the Justice League comics, but that's the kind of the thing that I maybe would want to do. And you have to allow those players to do that if they're going to be playing with the IPs. Otherwise, I wouldn't see it very fun. I wouldn't do it because it wouldn't seem fun to me, and I don't think it would be successful otherwise. Otherwise, you're going to end up handing somebody this data dump on what their character is, and they're going to be so restricted by what's in those files that they're not.
That phrase, so and so would never do that, is just like I'm already angry.
Yeah.
The closest I've come to this is running masks as like Young Avengers, right?
Yeah.
Where Iron Man is one of the people in charge of the school, and Captain America, and like you see them sort of tangentially, but that's not what the story's about. You know, like we're going to go off and have our own adventures with your original characters that you created. Or I think somebody in the game I ran was like, okay, well, I want to play young so-and-so, and I kind of know what they're about. I'm like, cool, no one's going to police you on that, so go nuts. You know, like you're playing young Nightcrawler or something, like, okay, you are your own Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind so much maybe playing your own original hero, and maybe some of the Justice League shows up, like for example in the Star Wars animated stuff. You know, occasional like Vader shows up at times, but he's not always there, and it's still
like
even then it's a little awkward with the canon. Sometimes you're like, then they're just trying to shoehorn it in. So like if Hal Jordan shows up and helps you guys out, or gives you an or says you know you're needed, we're busy keeping the gate closed. There's my gates again.
Yeah.
Keeping the gate closed. You guys need to go handle this. That's cool. But again, you know, if I'm having to play Hal Jordan, I'm going to be burdened with all that knowledge that I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, one of the things that springs to mind is this is a friend of a friend. My friend told me about a campaign he was in, right? as a I think teenager. They were playing Star Wars, probably West End games, and they were going to be like reformed Sith or whatever, but they had to deal with Palpatine, right? Like they were dealing with the Emperor, and they got an audience with the Emperor, and they get there, and one of the guys says, I grab the guard's force pike and stab it to the Emperor.
Yeah.
Like, because I know he's evil. Like, okay, you're using meta knowledge, but you're also 16, and like,
all right,
fine. And then gets a 20 or whatever it was, like a critical
and
success,
kill the Emperor.
and another critical, and kill the Emperor, and the whole thing's gone. So if you're going to present canon characters, you have to be prepared to completely derail canon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or never present them and just have that be in the background. Which, if I'm running Star Wars, I'm never going to have Luke Skywalker. I'm never going to have Rey. I'm never going to have these people in the story because I don't want to deal with, or it'll be after any sort of canonized event.
And that brings us back to what he said. He figured we were going to say anyway. That's why we say it, because it's really hard. Unless you just say, here's Luke Skywalker, play however you want. There's no way I'm going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is a great opportunity to use the multiverse.
Yep. There you go.
We're on Earth 572.
Yeah.
And
right.
Yeah. And so you can do whatever the fuck you want.
That's actually a great excuse. If you need that as a prop, it's like, this is your Batman. You're still Batman, but it's the Batman you come up with.
Oh my god, that would be so much fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you're Batman. How did you become Batman on on Earth 571?
Yeah.
Why are you Batman?
And you're Wonder Woman.
Why?
How are you Wonder Woman? What is
how
different?
did you become Wonder Woman?
And what did you do with it?
You're now Viking Wonder Woman. You're the daughter of
a totally different flavor.
Right?
Like,
Odin. Or, Odin
or
Freya's Wonder Woman.
Or like Mayan or something. I mean, who knows? Like, it could be everything. Maybe they're all swapped, and like maybe Wonder Woman is from Krypton.
Yeah.
Sounds like we should just play demigods.
Basically.
So I'm not opposed to it, but it has to be for certain reasons, and there has to be certain rules set up. And most of that is, I'm going to play the character the way I want to play it, and you can't tell me no.
Oh, the other thing is any of these characters are Mary Sue's, and they're written by writers, not role-playing gamers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And if you try to stat up Superman compared to Batman, that's nothing. There is no Superman versus Batman in any sort of like RPG sense.
No.
That's nothing. I don't care about your movie. Like, you can at me.
Yeah.
Like,
So what's your superpower? I'm rich.
yeah.
That's
What's
it,
my
really.
superpower? I'm an invincible, immortal god who
Can reverse time by flying backwards around the planet.
I'm not even going to get in this conversation because me and the internet have fought about this enough.
Well, all I want to say about it is that these characters are written, like they're like part of a novel. They were written by one or two people who just had to agree on how they were going to get from point A to point B. It wasn't a collaborative storytelling thing. It wasn't, a group. So that's the thing. A lot of times game masters want to sit down and tell this deftly crafted story that they brought to their gaming table, but really what that game master should do is sit down and write the novel that they did.
And we say that because that's not a collaborative storytelling thing. When you bring it with a bunch of people, everybody's going to have input into your precious story, and it's going to start to fall apart.
Right. And all of these characters are precious.
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing. And so it's really hard to have a gaming table of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and the Flash and have anything that looks like a coherent sort of gaming experience.
Again, with acting, that's one of the things about improv comedy is they say just to be you yes and that's where we get up and get that thing, which is instead of blocking and saying no, I gave you a really funny line, run with that. You say they will take it somewhere else, and you accept their gift of like yes and then you run with whatever they're giving you, and that's exactly the way a game is played too. You accept what your players are giving you, whether it was what you had intended or not, or whether it falls into the DC canon or not. You still have to accept what they're giving you, and that's the joy. And if you let it go and you embrace it, that's the joy of collaborative storytelling. Otherwise, you're writing your novel, and that's a different type of storytelling, and it's just as viable, but not everybody can play in it.
I want to read your novel.
I do. Right? I totally do.
But I don't want to play in it.
No. I am a fan of your fanfic.
Yeah, 100%.
You could do a game. Okay, sorry, I'm like falling down the rabbit hole of superhero games now. I totally want to run like the multi-earth thing. Yeah. But you could also do one like your bard game where everyone was a bard, except everyone's like a different Wonder Woman or Superman.
Yeah. Everyone's Superman.
Yeah, but a different one.
Okay,
like,
now that's more interesting to me.
Right? Like one of you, if you're doing Wonder Woman, like one of you is is Gal Gadot, and one of you is like from the 70s TV show, and one of you is from the animated series, and you just like all the different things.
I actually did that.
It's like Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, exactly.
We actually did that. Dave and I did that. Everybody was Harrison Ford.
Oh, you did that? That's right, yeah.
We did
and you did one where it was all bards too, right?
We did the Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible, that's what
which is basically I pulled a plot line from the old Mission Impossible, not the stupid movies. Soapbox for a minute. So I'll keep it quick. The cool thing about the television show was that Mission Impossible was this sort of psyops covert group, right? And the whole thing was, if you get caught, we will disavow any knowledge of you, and you're on your own. Bye-bye. So, and the whole idea was that these guys came in, did something, and got out without ever being noticed or seen. Whereas the movies, he's blowing up planes and buildings, and he's causing traffic jams, and he's the opposite of not being seen. He's completely, and the show was really clever and smart about how these people were navigating. They would get into buildings and sneak around and do stuff and never be seen or caught. It was very cool. Yeah. So we took one of those plot lines from Mission Impossible, and we made them all bards because bards have a lot of sneaky qualities, charming qualities, and you assemble a group of con men, thieves, second story people, and all of that. And so everybody had a different sort of skill set, but they were all bards. Yeah. And the Harrison Ford thing was Tales of the Floating Vagabond, and everybody was a Harrison Ford character from one of the movies. Right. We had The Fugitive, we had Han Solo, we had Indiana Jones. We had, and so every one of them was together in this bar, and each one of them played each one of those characters, and they were all Harrison Ford. Yeah. But as different characters. So it is. It's fun and it's funny and I don't know if it can really last a campaign. No, yeah. But it'd be fun for a couple maybe.
Yeah. Mazzy Chart Czar in the chat room says everyone's Superman sounds like a great Fiasco game.
Yeah. Yeah. One Last Planet.
Yeah.
The run of the Deadpool Corps, CORPS. Yeah. Is one of the only times I've been reading something and laughed out loud. Right. And it is several versions of Deadpool from multiple universes. And I embarrassed myself in public reading it. I think I was on a bus or something. Yeah. And I made a loud noise that made people look at me, and I was like, that's nothing.
I've doubled over laughing reading Calvin and Hobbes in public, so it's okay. Yep. It's okay to laugh at stuff. Yep.
It is. It's fine.
But the Deadpool Corps, I highly recommend it. It's a lot. 5 versions of Deadpool, and it's fucking ridiculous.
Fourth wall? What fourth wall?
Yeah.
Panels? What panels?
It's like 16th wall.
Yeah. All right. Is that it? I think we're done.
I like this. We've come up with some game ideas. Thank you
Yeah,
for that.
thank you.
I think Kimi's going to run a superhero game next.
We
next
won.
one.
We won at podcasting
We did
today.
Go us. High five.
We won the podcasting game.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. This has been season 26, episode 2 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Kimmy.
I'm Jason.
I'm still Stork.
Yep, and you can catch us next week. Don't forget, upcoming on January 24th and 25th, it's a Friday and Saturday, we are having the Rainbow Railroad Charity Marathon. So we are having games back-to-back for 24 hours.
24 hours. Will people here at midnight to 3?
Can I pimp my slot?
In just a second,
Okay.
But that's actually next week. So we're kicking it off with the advice show at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So we're going to do our normal 1-hour show, and then we're going into a long marathon. We will be posting the schedule soon. Soon the GMs will get me the games that they're playing.
I sent it.
Oh, okay, you did it.
I don't know what you want from me.
You're the one
I
who
did
did
my homework.
You did your homework. Good job. Yes, now you may tell your thing.
So we got permission. I got permission because I did everything and I'm a superhero.
You did your homework.
Just delete all of that. We'll fix that in post. The game Glitter Hearts kickstarted this fall. I immediately backed it because it's all about magical girl transformation.
So exciting.
It's a PBTA game built around magical girl transformation.
Yeah.
And it lets you play like Power Rangers or Sailor Moon or Voltron or whatever. And we're going to use it to be the Rainbow Wardens. And so everyone is going to be one of the colors of the rainbow, and we have to go save the wardens who were abducted. And anyway, Greg Leatherman gave us permission to use his Glitter Hearts game, even though it's not published yet, and I'm immensely grateful to him. You should
That's very cool.
The Kickstarter is closed, obviously, but you can go to pre-order now. Highly recommend it. It's very fun. I've been reading through character creation all week, and I really like the whole game. I mean, it's really fun. I'm immensely grateful to him. And I just want to say, we're going to be on at 4 a.m. Pacific time. And if you could tune in live, it would really mean the world to us because that is a lonely time of night.
On the West Coast. On the East Coast, it'll be 7 o'clock, so
Yes.
it's in reasonable time.
And
so.
wherever you are, Sweden,
Yeah.
please join us.
It'll be
That'd be
like
great.
lunchtime for you.
4 a.m. PST. I'm going to have 4 players here who all are eager and excited to do this.
And caffeined out.
Caffeinated.
Yes, and it is going to be a glittery rainbow hoot.
Yes.
So
It'll be amazing.
We're going to come in here next, and it's going to be just be like pixie
Glitter
sticks,
everywhere.
and glitter,
Glitter
and
bomb.
like, yeah.
That's ideally the game will resemble a glitter bomb going off.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
It'll be amazing. Yeah. So check out happyjacks.org/rainbow. Right now it's a landing page that has information. We have a bunch of cool prizes actually for donors. There'll be prizes for the top donors of the whole event, but there'll actually also be a really cool package deal of downloadable content games for each game. So the highest donor in each game slot will also get prizes. So it's going to be fantastic. Check that out. And then eventually that will be redirected to the actual donation page when the event goes live. We made over $6,000 last year when we did this. And it is supporting the Rainbow Railroad, which is a fantastic charity organization that helps LGBTQIA plus people around the world who are in circumstances where their governments and their countries are oppressing them in dangerous and terrifying ways.
Murdering them.
Yeah, murdering them.
Yeah, literal murder is happening.
And it gets them to safety. So it's fantastic. They are a very highly reputable group. Almost all of their money, like some insane percentage, like 90% of their charitable donations actually go to helping people, not to administrative costs or advertising.
Yeah, they're a really great group.
Yeah, they're really fantastic, and they're working with us, and they're always really tickled. And I don't think they quite get us.
Right. I don't think roll.
They're like, cool, you're playing games at a table, and we're really excited that you're helping us. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So awesome. Anyway, check that out, happyjacks.org/rainbow, and as always, happyjacks.org/schedule for all the things that are Happy Jacks coming up.
Yep.
All right.
We have a game tomorrow, too.
Oh, yeah.
Vampires.
Vampires are playing tomorrow.
Vampires. It'll be the first, I think, real game because we've sort of got our feet wet
Yep.
last night. Yes.
All the things.
And then, yeah,
Check it out.
there's APs all week.
Yeah.
All week.
I'm
All
here
right.
Mondays and Wednesdays, so
All the time.
lucky you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh,
check us out. We got lots and lots of content. Kimmy's been very, very busy making sure and herding these cats and keeping all the balls in the air.
Spreadsheets are life. Okay. And
Keeping all the cats in the air.
all the cats.
Was it that Steve Martin with cat juggling? I've heard of this cat juggling.
Yeah.
That's literally what she has to do is cat juggling.
Yeah, there's Jellicle cats and I have Jackicle cats. So
Juggle cats.
yeah. All right. Thank you. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
The preceding program has been a presentation of the Angry Folk Media Empire. Oh, Happy Jack's RPG Podcast, the show we love the most. With bad advice and humor crass from each and every host. And though the show won't start on time, the wait won't be in vain. For the host will drink and yammer on till no emails remain. Oh, Happy Jack's our patron saint of the skillful game master. Oh, guide us well with yes ending to avert a disaster. Whether fate or GURPS or millions of apocalyptic acts, fellow listeners and every host will always have our backs. Unless you're playing D&D and then they'll give you crap.